First, I want to thank you for coming to the podcast. It's really appreciated. And you'll be your first guest. I hope everything's okay. And I've been looking at your page. You have a lot of things to teach us in our fitness journey. And first, I want to start with your story. Can you tell us something about you and which is your journey of fitness?
Of course. Well, like I just said, slightly interrupting you. Thank you for having me. It's really exciting to be your first person. So, a little bit about me. I guess I've been doing a form of fitness for quite a few years. The generic trying to run, which I absolutely hated, just go into the gym but not really knowing what I'm doing. So, that's probably been for like 3 years, I would say, that I've had some element of lifestyle within the fitness world, but it's only been probably the last 18 months that I've taken it seriously. So I did a lot of CrossFit and a lot of Olympic lifting last year. That's mainly down to my older brother because he's like a CrossFit animal, so he's really into CrossFit, so I learned a lot from him, and that really changed my mentality with regards to fitness because I just knew everything I'd done before was just completely wrong. And although I was maintaining a sort of level of fitness, it was almost like when you're at school and you do PE once a week and you just could run to catch a bus, for example, but I knew that I wanted to take it a lot further than that. So last summer I went on a training camp, an Olympic weightlifting training camp with Michaela Breeze, who's a British Olympic weightlifting champion. She was fantastic, and just getting in the environment of being coached properly by somebody and somebody telling me exactly what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong, rather than just watching Instagram videos and basing yourself on like a 30-second clip of watching someone just doing multiple reps of something that isn't actually how you should be working out. It was such a good positive environment for me, and it really changed my mentality. So I got a lot more involved with doing Olympic lifting and CrossFit properly. I was unfortunately quite ill towards the end of last year, so I had to take a little bit of time out. And when I came back into fitness at the start of this year, so around January, February time, I again knew that I wanted to learn how to grow, move my body properly, so that everything I was to do in the future, whether it was CrossFit or Olympic lifting, I wanted to know that I was using my body properly, that I had the right form, that I was strong enough to do it, because I kind of threw myself into it. And obviously that's where you get injuries. So I took a little bit of a step back from the high intensity of Olympic lifting and from CrossFit, and that's when I sort of got more into the weightlifting side of it. So a lot of terms, time under tension, which a lot of people will go, what does that mean? But it is literally what it says. So you just really take your time doing a rep. So rather than moving really fast through it, you have a tempo. So it might be 3 seconds to go down in your squat, you hold it for a second, and then you come back up. And that is really stimulating your muscles, and making sure that they're aware of what they're doing. They're not just rebounding off of each other. So for me, that has really progressed me in 6 months quicker than I think anything else would. So that's kind of where my training is at the moment, still with the weightlifting. I think I will bring it a little bit back into CrossFit and Olympic weightlifting eventually. But at the moment, I'm just trying to get pretty much as strong as I can, so that then when I do go back to that, I've got that core structure and function of movement, less likely to injure myself. I actually know what I'm doing. And when I lift heavy weights above my head, there's obviously a lot less of a risk of it falling and injuring me or someone else.
Okay, that's really cool, actually. And how did the quarantine affected your training?
Um, I was able to train a lot at home for sure. So, I mean, it's hard because you can have all the will in the world, but it is hard to train at home because you're essentially moving from one room to another and you have to build up that motivation. So I definitely had, the odd week here and there where I probably didn't really train a lot. So I don't want to deceive anyone into thinking that I was on it all the time, because I definitely wasn't. But the thing with time under tension and resistance training is that you can just use your body weight, and you can still make it incredibly hard. So although I wasn't able to have a movement pattern the same as if I was in the gym, because I didn't have a squat rack and tons of heavy weights, I was still able to maintain a really good level of fitness and build my strength. I actually did a full body scan after lockdown, and my body fat had reduced and my muscle mass had gone up. So it was like a physical way of seeing that actually what I was doing through lockdown was working. So there's not really an excuse. As long as you know how to do it correctly and you're safe, there's no reason that people wouldn't be able to at least make a start from home. The only thing I would say is that when I did go back to a gym, my DOMS, so that the ache that I get from the muscles after my training, is lasting a few days longer than it used to, because my body is like, whoa, we're back to lifting really heavy weight now, not just your own body or an 8-10 kilogram kettlebell that I've got at home. So
Yeah.
hopefully that stops soon.
Okay, cool. And your goals, which is the thing that keeps motivating you to improve?
So I have like my own personal goals, which for me isn't about how I look necessarily. It's more about how I feel and how much I can actually lift. So week on week, I'm always trying to add a little bit of weight to what I'm doing, or maybe a few more reps. But ultimately, I would say, because of the type of training that I do, it's so mentally stimulating. So every time I go, you know, even if I had the same training pattern for 5, 6, 7 weeks longer, each session to me feels slightly different. So I never get bored of it, because they're still just as challenging, because you're always improving your strength or checking on your form. I video most of my workouts just so I can watch myself back. I don't do it for the purpose of showing other people necessarily. But I feel like, other than just how you look, it's really important to focus on how your strength is increasing, the fact that you managed even one more rep in your set that week. And for me, that's definitely the most important thing.
Yeah, cool. And I've seen your page, and you're like giving advices to people in diets and that kind of thing. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So diet and nutrition, I think, is very underrated. I think a lot of people, they jump straight into a diet and they don't do any of the research, because they just hear that their best friend or their neighbour or someone had a really good result from a juice diet, the Atkins diet or something. So they think, wow, they lost 2 stone, I'm going to do that. But everybody is so different. All of our DNA profiles is so different that it means you really have to look and adapt your diet and nutrition to what suits you. From a just generic person perspective, if you want to lose weight, it's just about going into a calorie deficit, but keeping safe. I think you use the word calorie deficit and people think, wow, I'm going to drop down to 1,000 calories. But if your body was used to 3,000 calories before that, if you drop that much in intensity, all your body is going to do is want to hold on to your fat for survival. So in order to survive, your body needs to be able to expend energy. And how does it expend energy? It uses your fat stores. So if it thinks you're essentially dying, you know, you can't say to your body, hey brain, I'm going to go on a diet. All I want to do is lose weight, look a little bit better, be able to move better. Your brain doesn't work like that. Your brain just thinks, oh my goodness, this body is dying. It's so depleted of all the nutrients and minerals that it needs. So I have to hold on to everything that I possibly can to keep myself alive. And it's going to hold on to your fat. So people really need to educate themselves around how to do that safely, going into a calorie deficit. And then the obviously opposite side of that is if you're taking on a new style of training or you're adapting your lifestyle, you need to be able to fuel your body. So the only exception I would say is if you're competing in bodybuilding, because they have to go to like really extreme limits and you have to be very, very ready and educated around doing that. But otherwise, I wouldn't be able to drastically reduce my calories and still perform to the standard that I do. I have to fuel my body enough So I have to make sure that I'm getting enough protein to repair my muscles and my tissues from using them so much in my training. You know, I have to make sure that I've got the energy to actually function. And that's not just from a training perspective. You know, if you've got a family, lifestyle, work, just socially, you're out and you travel a lot, you just have to make sure that you fuel your body correctly and listen to your body as well. I think it's all fair and well trying to stick to a particular diet type. If you want to be a vegan, a vegetarian, a meat eater, but you should always have room for adaptations if it's needed to keep you healthy. So I think, as crazy as it sounds, because people don't like to hear it, you just have to have a diet that suits you. And that's really hard to find because it is all on you. You can't just Google what's the best diet for me, because Google doesn't know. But if you really take time to listen to your body, try different things, don't just get your head set on one thing because your neighbour's done it and had really good results, then you can really make a difference. You can lose weight, you can gain muscle, you can have a better energy output, your recovery can be better. Like, there's so many things you can improve from your diet and nutrition, but you have to get it right. So I hope that's specific enough, because I obviously can't go into massive amount of detail unless it was for an individual person. So
Okay, and like, what is the main thing that you say most of the people use this in their diets, or how do you most of the people manage cheat foods?
um so I think obviously sugar and fat is too easily accessible. um I think that people don't realise what they're putting in their body. So a lot of people think they're having a healthy diet, and actually if they were to track their diet and their macros, so your macros are your protein, your carbs and your fats in your food, I think if they actually tracked, they'd be very, very shocked. And when I help people with their diet and nutrition, that's the first thing I'll do, is I'll say download an app like MyFitnessPal. I don't know if you've heard of that, but you basically log all of your food and the quantity of your food. And then it will add up all your calories, and it will show you how much protein, how much fat, how much carbohydrates. And if you get someone to do that for about 5 days, I have never ever had someone say, oh yeah, I expected it to be like that. They're always completely shocked by how much they're actually putting into their body, especially around carbohydrates and fats, I would say. Protein is normally way too low for everybody, but the carbohydrates and fats are normally super, super high when they thought they were on a healthy diet, and actually it's not a healthy diet at all.
Okay, cool. And we're going back to the gym. How do you manage the times when you're doing many reps and you're really tired? Which is your mentality to keep going, keep improving in that case?
um, so I think you always, number one is just listen to your body, and if you really are exhausted and you can't give any more, then obviously stop, because you don't want to get injured. But it's well known that physically, if your body is unable to go, you've always got like 10 to 15% more mentally, so you can push your body through. And when you get to that point, those are the reps that actually count even more, because you're pushing that muscle stimulus and that nervous system into adding that tiny little bit. Even if you get half a rep, it's not just the fact that mentally you're thinking, wow, I've absolutely smashed this, I didn't think I could do it. So you've really like enhanced your own performance mentally, but your body's reaction to that is so positive. So when I get to that point, it's almost like I've got a mini Claire coach in my head who's like shouting and screaming at me and going, come on, just, even if I was due to do 3 more and I feel I can't, if I can just get 1 more of those 3, I know that my next set of training, whether that's in a week or 2 weeks time when I come around to do that again, I'll be able to push to that because it's the last thing that I did. And mentally, that's such a good attitude to have, and it makes me feel like I'm absolutely buzzing and ready when I go back into it the week after to add that extra rep and hopefully progress and do even more. Such a good feeling.
Okay.
This is the best, isn't it? When you just get that extra one, you're like, yes.
Yeah, that's actually true. That's actually true. The last topic that we're gonna take is, which advice do you have for beginners?
the best piece of advice is just get started. I think too many people delay it for so many reasons. And I totally get it because I've been there. I've felt intimidated going to the gym. I felt overwhelmed by there being too much knowledge. I've had my periods of time where I felt like I'm not making any progress. So there's a ton of reasons that you can make excuses, but you just have to get started because once you do, it's so positive for like every other aspect of your life. And just ask for help. I am more than happy for people to message me. They do, and I'm always happy to respond with the best knowledge that I can. Don't be afraid to approach people if you're going into a gym physically. As much as everyone looks really grumpy, I promise it's just because you're generally like in the zone, so you're just focused on what you're doing. But everyone actually, it's like a little mini community, so never ever be scared to approach somebody and ask them for a little bit of help or advice. If you can afford to, I'd recommend getting a coach. Even if that's just at the very start, it's not something you have to do forever. But certainly for me at the moment, I felt like I got to a point where I plateaued a little bit. So I thought if I get myself a coach, he's going to be able to teach me some new things, some new movement patterns, how to really progress to the next level. And I won't have him forever. It's just whilst I do get to a progression stage. So if you're right at the start and you get a coach who can get it right from day one, then your form's going to be right, your energy output's going to be right, you're going to be doing movements and exercises that suit you rather than just jumping into a 100 kilogram deadlift or squat, which you would literally damage yourself so badly. But I've seen people do it. It is good to have somebody be able to watch you. They can see your movement pattern, so they can say what movements do suit you, which don't. They can probably help you with your diet and nutrition a little bit if you don't know a lot about that as well. Coaches generally have their hands in a lot of pies in that way. But ultimately they're there to keep you accountable and make sure that you're getting it done. And after 4 to 6 weeks of doing it consistently, you won't want to stop anyway because you'll be seeing those improvements and that progression. So that's probably like 3 different bits of advice when you ask for one, but hopefully that's still really helpful.
That's cool. That's cool, actually. Yep. And last but not least, do you recommend someone to come to the podcast as also a guest?
The fact that we can share our knowledge with each other and learn and grow as a community, I can't recommend it highly enough. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing who else you get on. Hopefully I'll be able to learn something from them, and when people listen back to what I've said, I hope that I've been able to help and inspire people a little bit as well. So I'm really, really grateful for you having me, and I can't wait to hear who else you get to come and speak as
Okay.
well.
Thank you. That's all. Thank you for listening, everyone that's outside, and I hope we can have you in the future also.
Yes, I'd love that. Thank you.